Hello my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach and welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to crochet our patriotic American flag style yard or garden sign. Now I wrote this pattern about 7 or 8 years ago and we decided it needed to be updated with some new yarn, some new pictures, and a brand new video. Now the sign itself measures about 15 inches across and about 17 inches long, so it will fit perfectly in your yard sign hangers. You can also get a different style hanger if you want to. You could use a dowel rod or bamboo or even a stick from your yard for a rustic look. Now you can find this free crochet pattern on my blog, and as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make our patriotic American flag yard sign, you're going to need 4 different colors of a bulky, super bulky number 6 yarn. You're going to need about 5 ounces of 4 different colors, blue, red, white, and gold. And that averages out to about 76 yards of each color. Now this is Yarn Bee True Colors. It is a super bulky number 6. The original one that I did, I used Loops and Thread Charisma bulky number 6. You can use any bulky number 6 that you want. This is an acrylic yarn and it looks a lot like some of those Simply Soft where it's really splitty, but it's also really shiny, and it's perfect for this project in my opinion. Now, if you don't have a super bulky number 6, you can use a medium weight number 4 and hold 3 strands together, and that will work as well. I really love the way the flag turned out using this yarn though. This Yarn Bee True Colors, it's from Hobby Lobby, and you just need 1 skein of each because it takes 5 ounces or approximately 76 yards of each color. We're going to be stitching today with our end hook, and this end hook is a 9mm crochet hook, not the 10mm. You need the 9mm crochet hook, and of course you're going to need a needle with a nice big eye for weaving in ends and your scissors. The other thing you're going to need is something to hang it on. Now my original one was hung on a rod like this one. This is just a basic curtain rod that has the tension on the end, and it's twisted all the way tight and it fits perfectly. All right, that's one option. You could use a bamboo rod or a wooden rod, anything that you want to hang it on. Even a stick from your yard would be pretty. Now I went back to Hobby Lobby and I purchased one of these. This is 14-inch, has a pretty little heart, and also it's really inexpensive. It cost me $2.49, and it's really worth it, and it looks really beautiful with the flag. But again, there's lots of different options to use to hang up your flag. It'll also fit on your basic yard sign stand that you put in the yard, and I know that because I have one. All right, so that's what you need. We're going to begin with our red, which is color 1. We'll start with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 32 chains. And I do recommend that you chain this initial 32 chains just a little bit loose, because this is going to be the bottom of our sign and we're going to work our way up, and we don't want it to be all puckered at the bottom, okay? So we're going to loosely chain 32 chains. I've chained my 32 chains just a little bit loose, and we're going to begin by placing a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. Now don't count the loop on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yarn over, go in, pull up a loop. We know how to do a double crochet. And now we're just going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of those chains all the way across our row. This pattern is mostly stitched in rows of double crochet, so as you can see, it's going to whip up super fast. One thing I did find out when working with this particular Yarn Bee yarn is that it is similar to the silky yarns like Soft Secret, and it is just a little bit splitty. It's not a tightly wound yarn, so keep that in mind when you're working. All right, so I'm just going to work all the way across my chain, stitching 1 double crochet in each of those chains. We began in the 4th chain from the hook. We count these 3 chains as our first double crochet. Then we stitched a double crochet in each stitch across. So we're going to have 30 double crochets. Then I chained 3. And we're going to turn our work. Now we're going to stitch a double crochet in each stitch across. Now our chain 3 counts as our first. So we'll start in our next stitch and stitch a double crochet in each of the double crochets across, and we're still using our color 1, which is our red. One double crochet in each of those double crochets across. You'll find, because we're using this bulky 6 and our end hook, it's going to stitch up really fast. We chained 3, counted as our first double crochet. Then we double crocheted in each stitch across. So again, we have 30 double crochets. I did not chain 3 because we're going to bring in our color 2, which is our white. When we're changing colors on the rows, you're going to need to do your chain 3 after your color change because it counts as your first stitch on your next row. Now we're going to leave the red attached because we're going to carry it up the side, and when we add that beautiful gold trim, it'll cover it right up. All right, so we're going to turn our work. Our chain 3 again counts as our first double crochet. And now we're just going to double crochet with our white yarn or color 2. Whoops. Like I said, it is a little bit splitty, so keep that in mind if you're using this particular yarn. All right, so I'm stitching 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across with my white yarn, which is my color 2. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to continue working across, stitching a double crochet in each of my double crochets all the way across, and chain 3 because we're going to do 2 rows of the white. So we joined in our white and we chained 3 and then 1 double crochet in each stitch across. So again, 30 double crochets. We're going to have a total of 30 double crochets on every row of our flag. I chained 3. We're going to turn our work, and then again that chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and then 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across. Super simple pattern. All right, so I'll just keep going with my 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across for row 4. So I completed that 4th row, and now at the end of our 4th row we're going to bring back in our red, and again every row has 30 double crochets. So we'll bring back in our red and chain 3. There we go. And so now you're going to repeat row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4 for 2 more times. In other words, you're going to do 2 more rows of red, 2 more rows of white, 2 more rows of red, 2 more rows of white. That way you're going to have 1, 2, 3 rows of red and 1, 2, 3 rows of white, which is 2 rows stitched each. So to help calm the confusion, you're going to repeat row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4 2 more times. So I completed those 2 repeats. So we did 2 rows of red and 2 rows of white to begin with, and then we did 2 more rows of red, 2 more rows of white, 2 more rows of red, and 2 more rows of white. And so that gives us 1, 2, 3 stripes of red, 1, 2, 3 stripes of white. Now we're going to begin the row where we add our blue field of blue. All right, so we're going to bring up our red. So now what we're going to do is we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to turn our work, that white out of the way there, and we're only going to stitch a double crochet in the first 14 stitches. All right. Now this one counts as 1, and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 14, and that will give us 15 double crochets. All righty. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Now I'm going to check to make sure I stitch the right amount. All right, so here's 1, because that's our chain 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, now because I'm going to bring my blue in, the way we change colors on this is we don't do the last loop on the last double crochet. So let me take that out. We start our double crochet, and then we bring in our blue and finish off. And the reason that we do it this way is so we have nice crisp rows. All right, so we're going to let our red drop, and we're going to stitch 15 of the blue. Okay, I'm going to pull that loop a little bit because that's a little too loose for me. All right, there we go. All right, so this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. That chain is always snug to get in that last stitch. There we go. All right, and now we're going to chain 3. All right, so on this row, this is row 13, we chained 3 and then 14 more, so we have 15 double crochets. We changed to our blue and we stitched 15 in the blue. And this is where our blue field is going to be. So now we'll turn our work. Be careful not to get all twisted up in those strings. Our chain 3 here counts as our first double crochet. So we'll double crochet in those next 14 stitches like we did. When we get to our second to last stitch, we'll start that next stitch and we'll finish with the red. We'll drop our blue, and make sure you drop your blue to the back of your work. There we go. And then we'll stitch 15 of the red. There we go. Now this is the back of our work. Let me show you the front. You have nice, crisp color changes. So we're on the back of our work here. We finished those 15. We're going to bring our white back in. And again, chain 3. And turn our work. Now this portion is a little bit more clumsy, and I find it does work well to lay it out on a flat surface because you've got one color here and the other two on the side, and it just makes for a little bit easier to work with. All right, so we want to get the red out of the way here because we're just going to work with the white now, and we're going to do our 15 stitches, and then we'll do the 15 in blue, 15 in blue back, and then the 15 in white back across, just like we did with the red. So we've chained 3, and now I'm stitching 1 double crochet in each of those stitches across till I reach that last stitch, the 15th stitch, and then I'll change colors with that blue. So I'm on that last stitch of the 15. I'm going to go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, bring up my blue yarn and let my white yarn drop behind. And then I'll stitch those 15 blue stitches. And I really want you to see how the color change is very important and keeping a nice crisp look around that field of blue with those stripes. See how that's nice and crisp? If we would have done it where we finished it and then came across, you would have a loop of the wrong color on top of those blue stitches. All right. All right, so now I'm just going to continue across. There we go. Stitching my 15 stitches in blue. So we chained 3 with the white, 15 stitches across, changed to our blue, 15 stitches across, chain 3. Now I'm going to turn my work. Get everything flipped over and out of the way. There we go. I've got my red yarn over here, my white one here, because this is the back of our work. And now I'm going to repeat what we just did. So chain 3, we'll stitch our double crochets across till we reach that center where we're going to change colors. I'll change to my white and then stitch those 15 stitches in the white. I completed those 2 rows. This is the back. Now always pull that to the back, okay? That way the front, as I turn it around, stays nice and neat. All right, so now what you're going to do is you're going to repeat these 4 rows. You're going to do 2 more with the red and the blue, and 2 more with the white and the blue. And that will give you, of course, 2 more stripes, because 2 rows is 1 stripe. All right, so we're going to repeat these rows. The 2 rows of red with the blue, 2 rows of white with the blue. So I completed those 4 additional rows with 2 rows of red for another stripe, 2 rows of white for another stripe, and then of course we have our blue. And you can see how nice and crisp my color changes are here. If you turn this over, it's not too bad in the back, but it's not as crisp, of course, because of the way we did it. And it makes it nice and crisp on the front of your flag for your garden or your yard. Now I've cut off my white, I've cut off my red, and I cut off my blue, because now we're going to bring in the gold. Now before we get started with our gold trim, I wanted you to see the side of my flag. You can see where we carried up all those yarns, and we're going to stitch over that with our gold trim yarn. Okay, I really love this gold. It's a really true gold color. All right, so we're going to go ahead and bring in our gold just like we did our other ones. And I have gone ahead and tidied it up. I weaved in the ends from the blue and then the red and white where I could, where we had ends. All right, now this row here of this gold, we'll chain 3, snug it down, and then we're just going to go straight across and stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across. So this is doing what we've already been doing. Just 1 double crochet in each of those stitches, working all the way across. So we've stitched 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets working across. Now we're going to turn and work down the side of our row. All right, so we're going to chain 1 and we're going to be working down the sides, okay? So what we're going to do is we'll place a single crochet in the corner. And then you'll skip this next row. This is the row here. And then in the end of this row, we're going to stitch 3 double crochets. And make sure you stitch in the end of the stitches and not in a hole. All right, so then we made a shell stitch. Now in the next row, we'll stitch a single crochet. There we go. Then we'll go to the next row and stitch a shell stitch in the end. Then get through the splitty stitch there. There is not a set amount of these that you need to have. You just need to evenly stitch this. And this splitty yarn isn't helping it make it easy. There we go. All right, so then we'll single crochet in the end of that next row. Then we'll go to the end of the next row. Make sure you go between the loops of the stitches and not the holes. 1, 2, and 3. And see how that looks? We're just making a simple single crochet and 3 double crochet shell stitch, alternating every other row. Let me move this up here because it's kind of sliding. All right, so we'll go to the next end of the row and stitch a single crochet. Then we'll go to the next end of the row, go between the loops, not the hole, and stitch 3 shell stitches. I'm sorry, 3 double crochet stitches to make a shell stitch. And then single crochet in the next. And we'll just repeat this, working all the way down to the corner. So we've stitched the shell stitch and single crochet alternately evenly down the side, and that brings us to the bottom. I've got a single crochet in my corner. I'm going to skip the next stitch and then stitch 3 double crochets for our shell stitch. Skip the next stitch and then single crochet. This way they're not so close together and bunched up on top of each other. It'll still lay really nice because we want it to be evenly spaced so that it looks pretty, like a really nice gold edging. And we'll just continue working this across the bottom of our flag. We've stitched our shell stitches and single crochets across the bottom of our flag, and now we're going to work back up this other side. This is the side where we carried our yarn, so we want to make sure when we evenly space our shells and single crochets that we cover up these, okay? So I've got a single crochet in the corner. I'm going to go to that next stitch. And again, we're working in the sides of the stitches and stitch a shell stitch of 3 double crochets. Single crochet. I missed the, there we go. Go down inside the stitch, not the holes. All right, so now here's one of our straps here, one of our pieces of yarn, and so I'm just going to go around it and cover it up. Stitch my shell stitch. We're doing this exactly the same way as we did the other side. We just want to make sure that we cover up those carried stitches and that we stitch over them, not around. All right, let me stitch the next single crochet in there. All right, so this is what it looks like on the front and on the back. You might see them a little bit on the back, but for the most part on the front you won't see them. Just make sure that when you stitch over them and cover them up. It'll give your yard, not yarn flag. It is a yarn flag though. You'll give it a much neater appearance if you can do that. So I worked my way up that last side. I'm going to join to that chain 3 where we started and chain 3. All right, and now what we're going to do across the top is we're just going to stitch 1 double crochet in each double crochet across, and that's going to give us a flap so we can fold it over and put that rod through that's going to hang it up. All right, so we're just going to go right across the top and stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across. So I stitched that row of gold across, and then I cut off. You're going to leave about a 30-inch piece of yarn because we're going to use this to sew the flap down. This is going to form a flap like this so we can put it on our rod that we're going to use. But before we do that, we want to put that star here. And so you're going to need to thread onto your needle about, I don't know, 30 inches worth of yarn, not a whole lot. And we're going to make the star. Now, it's up to you the size of the star you want to make. What I like to do is go to about here. And you want to make sure you go up in the stitch and not a hole. And this is about the center, and you want to go up. And I'm going to leave the yarn in the back so we can weave that in later. And then we're going to come down here and go in the center stitch here. And be careful not to pull your yarn through. We're going to make an X or a plus sign first, and then we're going to make an X. And we're going to go through stitches, not holes, and it's even better if you can get through some fibers. Okay, and we want to kind of even that up as much as possible. And then I'm going to come over here. All right, so there's our plus sign. Now we're going to make an X across. And again, go in the fibers of the stitch and not the holes in between. And then we'll come over here. There we go. And then I'm going to come back. Let me pull this through. Make sure I like the way that it looks. I do. And then I'm going to come back up in the center. There we go. And I'm just going to make a stitch going down. And that's just going to hold those down and in place. Like that. All right, so let's turn it over. And I didn't pull this one tight enough, so I'm going to have to fix that. But then we need to weave these in. And I'll come back and fix that one in a second. But what we'll do is we'll come back up here where we started. And you need to be very careful not to show any more of the white through on the blue. Or you'll end up with little dots of white on there, okay? I'm going to go ahead and tie this one. And then I'll fix that little loop because it's too big. And how I'll fix that is I'll just pull it up. I'll clip it. And then I'll tie it. That way it doesn't mess up the front. But you don't do what I did and do that. But if you do, you can fix it like that. Because that's the back side. And then we'll check the front and the star looks pretty. Now the last thing we need to do is fix the flap, okay? So we're going to fold this down like this. And if you chose a rod that is maybe thicker, you may need to do another row across here to make your flap thicker. Mine are thin, so I'm not too worried about it. And this is probably way too much yarn, but I would rather have too much than not enough, okay? Alrighty. So I'm going to turn this sideways. We want to make sure we don't have that loop there, so we're going to do that. And we'll just fold this in half. We want to make sure that we make our stitches. Now, if you wanted to, you could slip stitch this in the back, but I just like to make the stitches. There we go. And you want to make sure you go through the gold stitches and not the blue ones. You don't want gold extra little bumps showing through. All right, so now when we go across here, we'll go through here and through here. We'll go through those stitches in the back and like this. Okay, and then let me show you. I'm going to show you on the front how that looks. We're making a tube, and then you can't even see that on the front. All right? So I'm just going to continue to work my way across, stitching my flap down. And again, if you want to do a row of slip stitches instead of hand sewing it, you certainly can. So I've stitched it all the way across. I know I have way too much yarn here, so I'm going to push my needle down. Clip that off. And just weave this in securely. Make sure you don't go through because you want to have that tube space to fit whatever rod you're going to put on there. So my flag is all done. It's ready to be hung up. I added the hanger and I made a chain, so I'm going to hang it up with this chain. And I really love the way that it turned out. I can hardly wait to get it hung up.